Hello everyone! Each time we go online, we leave digital footprints. These traces can tell a lot about us, where we live, what we eat, or what we enjoy. Sometimes we don't even realize this data is out there, but crafty software developers make huge money using this information. And even if you're cautious online, you might still get duped by social engineering and sneaky people who trick you into sending money to a supposedly secure account. In such a world, it's hard to trust anyone. But it's necessary to know the techniques these hackers use. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up to be a target of those who know you better than you know yourself. A guy named Benjamin remembers a time when he was just a normal teenager. Back then, no one cared about him. Today, he's the world's most wanted hacker. The guy walks into his hotel room. He sees dead bodies all over the room and picks up a shell casing from the floor. Later, Benjamin comes to the police station and says that he's the hacker under the nickname, Who Am I? He says he will only talk to Detective Hanny Lindbergh. Since childhood, he's dreamed of having superpowers and doing the impossible.
Ich war unsichtbar. Und mein Superheldenkostüm hatte ich auch schon.
Paradise Pizza, das Ende des Regenbogens.
Like all superheroes, he also had a tragic backstory. Benjamin's mother committed suicide when the boy was 8 years old. He never saw his dad. He fled to France before Benjamin was born. The boy was raised by his grandmother, who also didn't know her father. He died in the war, and the only memory she had of him was 3 shell casings brought from foreign countries. The detective interrupts his tearful story. She's more interested in the details of the crimes of the hacker and his friends. Benjamin replies that every detail is important in this story. He compares hackers to magicians who masterfully deceive people. Benjamin goes on to show off a neat magic trick. He takes 4 sugar cubes, makes 3 of them vanish, and then brings them back again. From the time he was 14, he got into coding and hacking. It gave him a confidence boost. For the first time, Benjamin was actually good at something. He would spend all his time on the computer. His everyday life took a hit, and he ended up becoming an outsider among his peers. But on the dark web, he found his crowd. He looked up to a more experienced hacker, MRX, who could hack anything, a real superhero of the darknet. Following MRX's advice, Benjamin started using Ritalin pills to fight off drowsiness. Benjamin says MRX had 3 key principles. No system is secure, always aim for impossible, and have fun, both in the cyberspace and in real life. But the real reason Benjamin's life took a nosedive was a girl named Marie. One day, Benjamin delivered a pizza to the university library. There, Marie and her friends were studying for an upcoming exam. Benjamin found himself somewhat mesmerized by Marie. They went to the same school in the past, and he had a crush on her back then. Nevertheless, Marie hardly had any memory of him because he was sitting in the back of the class. Benjamin handed the pizza to the group, but one of the friends pointed out an error in the order and refused to pay. Taking the delivery guy's side, Marie convinced her friend to pay Benjamin. She said she'd pay even more if Benjamin helped them steal the answers for the upcoming test. Benjamin notices that Marie likes comic books too, and responds with a quote from a Superman comic book. He leaves, and back at home, daydreams about starting a family with Marie. Driven by his determination to help her, Benjamin sneaks into the university at night. He manages to nab the keys to the server room and takes a memento from the shelf. Then, he effortlessly hacks into the system and gets the answers to the exam. But before the hacker can make his escape, he's caught in the act by a security guard. Following this, Benjamin ends up in court, but gets off easy. He just has to do 50 hours of community service. Still, he's feeling worse than ever because his first attempt at using his skills totally flopped. Ritalin isn't cutting it anymore, and hacking is pretty much all he knows. So there he is, cleaning up the streets dejectedly, when he catches the eye of another guy doing time, named Max. Max tries to strike up a conversation with Benjamin, but he's in no mood for a chat. Then Max starts describing Ben's psychological profile.
Die sich die ganze Zeit übergangen fühlen, unsichtbar, der Restmüll der Gesellschaft. In der Schule wurdest du nicht mal verprügelt, weil sich keine Sau für dich interessiert, alles.
Concluding that Benjamin is just hiding behind a mask. Max walks away. Benjamin stops him and reveals that he got caught hacking into a computer. Max also knows a thing or two about hacking, but he's genuinely impressed by Benjamin's skills. He invites the young talent for a talk that evening. Later, Benjamin arrives at a party at Max's house and feels out of place in a crowd of strangers. The situation changes when he spots Marie. Benjamin watches the girl from a distance with interest, but then Max finds him and takes him upstairs. The two guys are complete opposites. Max is a charismatic leader and a winner at life, whereas Benjamin is a quiet loser. In the office, Max introduces Benjamin to Stefan and Paul. The first is a programmer and an adrenaline junkie. The second is a cautious expert on computer hardware and electronics. He too lost his mother early, and his wealthy father left him at the orphanage. The new friends ask the newcomer to show them what he can do, and Benjamin sits down at the laptop. In a few minutes, he manages to turn off all the lights on their street. The police arrive, and the hacker quickly turns everything back on. Max assures him that the cops are here for another reason. It turns out that this is someone else's house, and the party hosts are in a hurry to get away from the scene. Stefan breaks the window with a figurine, and the four are about to flee. Benjamin is spotted by Marie, and she remembers the delivery man from the library. Max tells his friends to flee, and Marie joins the hackers. Together, they escape from the patrol car. After a while, Benjamin finds himself alone with Marie. She finally remembers her quiet classmate, who had been left behind during a school trip once. The guy seems a bit uneasy and mumbles, struggling to find the right words. They part ways quickly after the awkward conversation. However, this brief interaction leaves Benjamin with a glimmer of hope in his heart. He feels noticed and remembered. He's wearing a smile when he returns home, but he notices that the front door is open. His grandma isn't around, and he eventually discovers her wandering in the middle of the road. Because of her Alzheimer's, she requires constant care now. Benjamin arranges for her to be admitted to a clinic, and he brings along 3 bullet casings that belong to her father. Soon, she will no longer remember how significant these casings once were to her. On his way home, Benjamin unexpectedly meets Max while riding the subway. Max once again notices the sadness on Ben's face and invites him to join him. In hindsight, Benjamin realizes he shouldn't have done it, but back then, he felt like there was an invisible connection between them. Max shared his journey of becoming a hacker, and Benjamin eagerly listened. Both guys are familiar with the principles of the legendary MRX. Max adds that one can't always stay hidden behind a computer screen, and that it's the people themselves who need to be hacked.
Der Mensch ist von Natur aus gutgläubig und konfliktscheu. Beim Social Engineering reizt einfach diese beiden Komponenten.
This technique makes stealing passwords and confidential data a walk in the park. You can pretty much get anything you desire. As an example, Max steps into a coffee shop which offers a deal: 2 free donuts for each order. Max makes up a story and acts like he's about to complain to the manager, which gets him the donuts. He shares them with a homeless person and encourages Benjamin to be bolder. Later, they approach a tall fence enclosing a paid parking lot. Stefan and Paul are already there, using a bolt cutter to break the chain. Cautious and hefty Paul doesn't fully trust Benjamin yet, but Max reassures him. Together, they hijack a white van and head to a meeting spot of German nationalists. Stefan gains entry using a fake ID, and Benjamin has to play the role of one of the speakers. Later on, Stefan tells Benjamin to connect the computer with the presentation to a different wireless network. Benjamin is overwhelmed with fear and is eager to get away as soon as he can. Nevertheless, he pulls himself together and walks confidently onto the stage. While pretending to set up the microphone, he successfully accomplishes the assignment. Giving in to his anxiety, Benjamin hurries away, and a security guard notices him. He returns to the stolen minivan, where Paul sets to work. A candidate makes his entrance on the stage to present his campaign ad, but instead, the screen shows a video that ridicules Hitler. This triggers an immediate outrage among the nationalists, prompting them to run towards the minivan. Armed with baseball bats, they proceed to smash the car windows while the hackers desperately look for the keys. Surprisingly, they happen to be in Ben's pocket. The hackers drive away and return the minivan to the parking lot, with the word "sorry" sprayed on the wrecked vehicle. Detective Lindbergh wants to make sure the hacker is telling the truth. In response, Benjamin tells the woman her bank account numbers, private details of her biography, and personal life. He got all this information online through hacking. Benjamin continues his story. The hackers decide to set up a base and choose Ben's grandma's place for it. Before long, the video from the nationalist gathering hits 1 million views on YouTube. Max and Stefan are thrilled about it.
Wir müssen Marke werden, wir müssen groß werden.
Alles, was Aufmerksamkeit generiert, ist kontraproduktiv.
Paranoid Paul isn't quite as enthusiastic as the others, but they're already imagining their rise to fame. Max grabs a clown mask and starts recording a message for the people. Benjamin coins the name Clay, short for Clowns Laughing at You. Paul decides to stick around with the team after all. Their next move involves a jab at the financial world. They sketch a middle finger with the stock chart during a TV broadcast. They also go after a medical company that's experimenting on animals, and they take on any case that will help them make an even louder statement. The hackers are starting to gain attention in Germany and worldwide. One day, the friends notice Marie in the supermarket. Max calls out to her, despite Benjamin's objections. Marie is thrilled to see Benjamin, but he's totally at a loss for words. It dawns on Max that Benjamin is just awkward, so he strikes up a conversation with Marie, along with her friend. But it hasn't all been smooth sailing for Max either. He really craved recognition from MRX, but his heroes seem to purposefully ignore their group's efforts. This really got to Max, leading him to often feel down and frustrated. Detective Lindbergh ramps up her investigation of the hacking incidents. She's hot on the trail of a Russian hacking group that call themselves Friends. The police know the nicknames of 3 of its members, leaving the identity of the 4th one a mystery. Rumor has it that one of them is in Berlin. Hanny and her former lover Martin join forces for investigation, though she doesn't want anyone to know about this. Meanwhile, Clay hack a radio station phone line to be the first callers and snag the victory on a quiz. They win a flashy red Porsche convertible. Paul, as usual, shakes his head at the expensive ride that draws too much attention. Yet Max talks him into taking the wheel and cruising around Berlin at night. They pick up 3 girls on the street, invite them over to Ben's place, and kick off a party. They're having a blast and making the most of the night while consuming copious amounts of alcohol. Benjamin, though, remains quite reserved until Max encourages him to step outside his comfort zone. Benjamin realizes it's time for him to make a change. He jumps into a convertible and spots Marie exiting a nightclub. With a mix of surprise and excitement, Marie hops into the car and spills the news that she aced her exam. She had actually been purposefully flunking it before, as she wanted to truly figure herself out.
Warum fährst du nun Porsche?
Bin Mitarbeiter des Monats.
Benjamin is finally starting to open up to Marie and is feeling confident. He decides not to let this opportunity slip by and gives Marie a sudden kiss. But Benjamin rushes things a bit. Marie feels a bit awkward and ends up leaving. Benjamin tries to catch up with her, but Marie's friend steps in and confronts Ben, telling him to stay away from her. He then gives Benjamin a beating. The following day, the hackers receive a message from their idol, MRX. Excited, Max opens the email, finding Detective Lindbergh's report on various hacker groups inside. The report labels Clay as harmless and not a big threat. Once again, Max is infuriated by the dismissive tone. He believes they need to pull off something grand to ensure they gain recognition. The team suggests attacking banks, but Benjamin comes up with a better idea, hacking into Germany's foreign intelligence agency. It's undeniably crazy and incredibly risky, just the kind of idea Max loves. After all, as MRX himself claims, no system is completely secure. The hackers track down the agency workers and tail the garbage truck. They manage to sneak into a paper recycling plant and discover a postcard sent by the granddaughter of one of the intelligence service employees. After sending a message on her behalf, they make the employee click the link, giving them access to her computer. This lady is in charge of the cleaning crew and responsible for handing out passes to the building. That's how the 4 hackers get their hands on the access cards. Under the cover of night, they sneak into the building, while Benjamin and Max lay low to hide from the guards. Their buddies are busy hacking the cameras and alarms. Max finds the right passwords, and Benjamin gets to the server room. He swiftly downloads the essential data from the main server, but lingers in the room for another reason. He then catches up with his pals, and they all escape unnoticed. Later, the team throws a party to celebrate their success. They nailed their mission. All the printers in the Foreign Intelligence Agency print the Clay logo. At the club, Benjamin spots Marie once again and casually tells the guy who beat him up earlier to get lost. Soon after, he's caught up in the thrill of dancing with Marie, feeling euphoric. However, when he returns from the restroom, he catches a glimpse of her kissing Max. Benjamin is shocked, and he bolts home, unable to handle such a heart-wrenching betrayal. His buddies try to catch up with him, but Benjamin refuses to open the door. Max knocks on the window.
Du benimmst dich wie ein kleines Kind.
Und du dich wie ein Arschloch!
Du bist nichts von uns! Ein Niemand!
Max, es reicht.
Max's words hurt Benjamin deeply. It turns out Benjamin didn't just hack into the printers, but also managed to steal classified intelligence info. He decides to take matters into his own hands and sends the data over to MRX. The very next day, Hanny Lindbergh pays a visit to the Intelligence Bureau and gets filled in on the whole situation. Incredibly, it took hackers only 2 minutes to crack a system that everyone thought was impenetrable. The man who pulled that off is considered a genius. On top of that, a hacker from the Friends group is discovered dead in the woods. In the morning, Benjamin wakes up to Max and the others. Benjamin tries to usher them out the door by throwing insults back at Max, but things take a rough turn when he gets punched in the face. Max and Benjamin keep fighting until Paul turns on the TV, revealing a report about their coworker who was discovered deceased. A USB drive containing information stolen by Benjamin is discovered beside the body, and there's the word rat written on the wall of his apartment. Turns out the dead hacker was a secret intelligence agent. Max realizes that Benjamin deviated from the plan and stole information from the intelligence agency server. As it turns out, that stolen data included a special file with a list of intelligence agents. Benjamin had sent the file to MRX, who found the name of the double agent inside and had him eliminated. Now the 4 hackers from Clay are involved in some very shady dealings. Their idol isn't just any hacker, but that 4th unknown member of the Friends group. He is part of the Russian cyber mafia and has his own interests, of which the guys know little. The Friends start to worry because they're convinced that intelligence agencies from different countries will come searching for them. At this time, Martin confides in Hanny that they're thinking about suspending her from the case because she hasn't been successful in catching the hackers. Stefan is about to leave Clay and hide alone, but Benjamin stops him. He promises to find MRX and turn him into the authorities. Paul agrees to the plan, as they would easily be found in any other case. The conversation is interrupted by a knock on the door. Panicked hackers send a battered Benjamin to see who's there. The guy sees Maria on the doorstep, who tries to figure out why he left the party so quickly. Benjamin assumes she's only interested in Max, then sees a black van behind the girl. The guy is acting weird, and Marie notes it.
Das ist alles, was du siehst, oder? Der komische Freak? Weißt du was? Ich wünschte, ich hätte dich niemals getroffen.
Benjamin slams the door in her face. Benjamin recollects that after that day, the guy started getting really paranoid and began to think that they were under surveillance. They only accessed the internet when they were in public places. In the library, Benjamin goes on the dark web to try and get in touch with MRX. Hanny's team picks up on this activity and pinpoints Benjamin's exact location. As the police are alerted and en route, Benjamin receives a chat link from MRX. Benjamin writes that he wants to join Friends, and in response, MRX sends him a test assignment. The police are already there, but Benjamin needs to download the file containing the crucial information. Once he's done, the Clay members flee in different directions. Benjamin puts on a clown mask and hides among the bookshelves. Through the glass door, Hanny spots him, but he successfully evades her, ducking under a table. Outside, he reunites with the rest of his friends, and they make their escape. Lindbergh takes responsibility for the mishap and is suspended from the case. She hands over the cases to Martin and leaves, writing MRX on the image of an unidentified hacker from the Friends group. The Russian hacker wants Benjamin to inject a Trojan horse virus into the servers of Europol, the European Union Police Service. That way, he could track and influence the investigation. But Benjamin, in turn, plots to gain access to MRX's computer. Stefan called this file a pregnant horse, as they hid their Trojan inside the first one. Next, Clay could trade information about the hacker's identity for their freedom. Before they begin their plan, the team dissolves their hard drives in acid to eliminate any incriminating evidence. Max takes a moment to apologize to Benjamin for punching him and for kissing Marie. He's come to understand that Marie holds a special place in Benjamin's heart. Max admits that his hacking skills are basic, so he has to keep doing something flashy to get attention. However, Benjamin possesses genuine talent.
Außer Copy und Paste kann ich nichts, Mann. Ich kann nicht mal richtig programmieren.
Glaubst du, das habe ich nicht gewusst.
Coming together, the 4 friends set fire to the headquarters, a difficult decision that weighs heavily on their hearts. With a sense of sadness, Benjamin bids farewell to his grandmother's house and the cherished memories of his childhood. They board a bus bound for The Hague, where the Europol servers are located. However, upon reaching the building, they discover it to be an impenetrable fortress, impervious to their previous techniques. Undeterred, the group even attempts to access the building through the sewers, only to be thwarted by a robust grate. Max hurts his hand by a nail during their attempt to get inside, and they come away with nothing. The guys are getting desperate. They have no more ideas. But then Benjamin gets a lucky break. He notices one of the female visitors dropping her pass and picks it up. Feeling guilty for what happened, he goes on the mission alone. He recalls Max's words about people wanting to avoid conflict. Showing his pass to the guard, he lies that he was on a tour and forgot his wallet in the cafeteria. Benjamin points to his bruise and says his father will beat him again if he doesn't get the wallet. The guard still refuses to let him in, so Benjamin leaves, pretending to be desperate. It works, and the guard takes pity on him and lets him in. The man leads Benjamin to the dining hall and leaves Benjamin alone there for only 2 minutes. That's long enough for Benjamin to leave Paul's box inside, which shares Wi-Fi under the same name as the official network. The next day, employees connect to the fake Wi-Fi, and Benjamin gains access to Europol. The virus spreads across the network, and Benjamin sends the key with his virus to MRX. But the experienced hacker turns out to be smarter than this and sees through his plan. MRX gains access to Benjamin's computer and reveals his identity. The guy receives a snapshot from his laptop's camera and immediately starts running. 2 men in black suits chase him through the streets of The Hague. Armed Russian thugs almost catch Benjamin while he's hiding in the subway tunnels. He returns to the hotel where he finds the bodies of his friends. Max, Paul, and Stefan have paid the price for his mistake. Benjamin places 3 shell casings on the table in front of Lindbergh. He would give anything to become invisible again. With all the pieces of the puzzle in place, the detective immediately contacts Martin in Berlin. She invites him to team up and solve the case together. Alone at the moment, Benjamin rummages through his pocket, recalling his last conversation with Marie. He reflects on her thoughts about finding oneself.
Dass es da draußen zu viele Möglichkeiten gibt. Aber man kann sein, wer man will. Man kann alles sein.
That time, the girl leaned in and kissed him first. Benjamin then suggests that the two of them go somewhere together. Marie chose Copenhagen, much to the guy's surprise. As Hanny comes back, she interrupts his stroll down memory lane. She tells Benjamin that she's been taken off the case and angrily asks Benjamin what he wants. Perhaps he's hoping to enter the witness protection program. The detective isn't eager to grant this wish, but Benjamin offers her the identities of friends and MRX in exchange for a clean slate. That would secure her position at her job, and Hanny agrees. As Martin arrives from Germany, Hanny seeks his permission to harbor Benjamin as a citizen of his country. Benjamin is going to exploit the Achilles heel of MRX, his pride. Benjamin decides to access the darknet under the username MRX. On his behalf, he confesses that he's been working for the government and that he exposed his fellow hackers. In order to defend his reputation, the real MRX chooses to reveal a part of his hidden identity by sharing his IP address.
I never worked for the government. Who the f*** are you? What the?
Benjamin sends the information to the Secret Service, resulting in the apprehension of MRX, who happens to be a 19-year-old teen from New York. Benjamin has completed his end of the deal and is now ready to receive a fresh identity and move to another city. As Lindbergh departs, she notices a round wound on the young man's hand. She remembers how Martin said there were a lot of holes in Benjamin's story. The detective drives to the house where Benjamin's grandma lived. Although it was supposed to be destroyed by a fire, it's actually intact. Hanny spots an empty box of Ritalin in a trash can and then sees Marie. Surprised, Marie claims she doesn't recognize Benjamin in the photo Hanny shows her. She only recalls the quiet classmate when Hanny mentions his name. They never talked after graduation.
Der hat sie doch nicht mehr alle. Entschuldigung, ich würde mich mit so einem Typen niemals freiwillig treffen.
The detective then visits a local psychiatrist and asks him about Benjamin's family. Turns out his mother suffered from multiple personality disorder. She had 4 distinct personalities. She was on medication that provided relief for a while. Sadly, she reached a point where she couldn't cope any longer and chose to end her own life. It's possible that this condition was inherited by her son, Benjamin. Such a condition might arise after going through acute trauma, and taking Ritalin could have potentially aggravated it. Realizing what's happening, Lindbergh goes to the hospital to Benjamin's grandmother. On the nightstand next to her bed, there's an open box that once held bullets from her father's old gun. The detective heads over to the agency. There, the experts have already examined the bullet casings Benjamin had brought in. Turns out these casings are from a type of ammunition used during World War II. Hanny talks to Benjamin, pointing to his wound. In his story, it was Max who was hurt by the nail. Hanny also reminds him of the keys to the white van which, oddly enough, were discovered in Ben's pocket. Paul's story about his dead mother also seems to be Benjamin's way of talking about his own loss. His friends are false personalities that Benjamin made up to get over his trauma. Their bodies have not been found in a hotel in The Hague. Hanny places his grandmother's empty jewelry box in front of Ben. Clay is simply a reflection of Benjamin himself, and he masterminded all the attacks on his own. Benjamin can't stand the truth. He gets up from his chair and starts pacing from corner to corner. The guy mumbles that he's not like his mother. The detective can't keep her into the bargain.
Es tut mir leid. Du bist krank. Ich bin nicht wie meine Mutter.
Lindbergh feels sorry for Benjamin, who's in tears, and says that friends will seek revenge on him for exposing MRX. Even though Hanny receives praise for cracking the case, she continues to carry a sense of guilt. With Benjamin by her side, she heads to court. Benjamin apologizes for stealing her personal data. In response, the detective changes course and guides Benjamin to a room filled with computers. She explains that the witness protection program is actually a software and gives him 5 minutes to hack into it. Benjamin pulls it off, creating a new identity for himself. He's not the primary target of the Secret Service, and Hanny will just say that he has escaped on their way to the court. She's prepared to face consequences from her superiors. Benjamin is invisible again. He assures Hanny that he will quit hacking. With a nod from the detective, he exits the car. Finally, Benjamin reveals the secret behind the magic trick with 4 sugar cubes. Benjamin disappears, and at that moment, Hanny suddenly realizes that he has been playing her all this time. After a while, Benjamin is approached by Marie and then his 3 partners.
Nicht mal Europol wissen jetzt, wer du bist.
Was für einen Namen hast du dir ausgesucht?
Keine Namen.
It turns out that after he escaped from the killers and returned to the hotel, he and his friends came up with this ingenious social engineering plan together. Their target was Detective Lindbergh. The finishing touch involved Max using a hammer to make a wound on Benjamin's hand. In the movie, there are several nods to Fight Club, a film that also explores the idea of having multiple personalities. The storyline involving hacking a quiz show is actually inspired by real events. A skilled hacker managed to become the 102nd caller, winning a brand new Porsche, a vacation, and $20,000. As always, check out the movie name in the description below. In the meantime, tell us in the comments, did you have imaginary friends back when you were a kid? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to get even more cool recaps.